At the end of the episode, after the closing music, there's some explicit content. My dad would never let me listen to this. The guys are only having fun. It is the guys relaxing and letting go. Make sure your kids are in bed or not with you while listening. If you are easily offended, don't listen past the closing music. Thanks for your support of Law Abiding Biker Podcast.
Hey, Bikeaholics and listeners alike, the show is still going strong because of a lot of hard work and your support, of course. Thanks to all those loyal listeners and true friends of the show that have supported us or are supporting us. For less than a coffee a month, you can help support us too and put a little fuel in the law-abiding biker gas tank to make sure this show keeps moving on down the road. So, calling all law-abiding bikers, head over to our Patreon page and take action today. You can do so at lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon, Patreon. Oh, did I mention there's benefits too? From all your friends at lawabidingbiker.com, we appreciate each and every one of you. God bless and ride safe. You better be rocking your biker gripper, Jake.
Oh, I'm rocking it.
Hey,
chased by the women
you
today.
have your grip on?
You know, the biker gripper.
Simply the best motorcycle cell phone, GPS, radar detector, and EFI tuner mount on the market.
Oh, it grips so tight.
That's right, 18 pounds grip strength to be exact.
So sleek and strong.
That's right, fits American or metric motorcycles and comes in black or chrome.
So what are you waiting for? Get your grip on.
You can get the Biker Gripper exclusively in the Law Abiding Biker store. Head over to www.lawabidingbiker.com/store and get your grip on. Let's do this thing, Rocket.
Hell yeah.
Feel it.
All right.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, you freaking bikeaholics. This is the podcast for the Big MM, the motorcycle majority, also known as the
99%.
Ooh, in frickin' stereo. It's how we rock it. That's right. By listening to this podcast, whether you like it or not, you better like it. You are part of what we call around here the biker revolution, bitches. Know that. We do have just one little question for you before we get started. Jake, do you know what that question is? If not, I'll do it.
Oh, I know it.
All right.
What are you fucking waiting for?
Fucking mount up.
Just straight up.
Mount up, son.
That's right. Mount up. Let us take you on another wild-ass ride. And Jake, just straight up, if you say, what are you fucking waiting for, then it brings just way more clout to it, dude.
It was kind of dirty. It was just like, hey, yo, this is what's going to happen.
That's right. One Jake Justice up in the house today. Gonna spit this podcast with us. Thanks for being here, Jakey, of course. And then we got, who else we got?
Yeah.
And that was complete nonsense. The opener to this podcast, dude. That was complete nonsense.
Well, you know, you have to give it to y'all.
And that was none other than smooth operator BD Kane in the house. He did that opener. It was not a voicemail. I know we fooled you all. It was not a voice message. And he wrote that poem from his heart. Stayed up late last night with a bottle of whiskey and wrote that, dude. Oh my God. That was funny.
A little Jameson.
And that little poem came from none other than what?
Well, it came from my heart.
Came from somewhere in the nether region, I'd say that.
Yeah, it was
pretty
deep.
sure it sounded something like this.
Yeah. This was a song that was a little rambunctious back in the mid-'80s, back in our day.
In high school. This
yeah.
was risque shit back then.
With your realistic 15-inch speakers just rocking it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We didn't have Bose. We were too poor. We're rocking Radio Shack.
I had this on cassette tape.
The Block Punk was...
Jake had this on Casingle.
Oh,
Casingle.
Casingle.
2 Live Crew, straight up. All right, dude. This is just nonsense. Complete nonsense, but that's what we love doing around here. So, shall we get in? This is, hey, Ryan Erlacher here. That's right. Your host of the Law Abiding Biker Podcast. And, of course, your...
High-tech redneck.
I thought it was coming in stereo again, like the 99%er.
We got lucky that time.
Jakey, real quick. So Jakey and Big Daddy rode up here today from different areas. Big Daddy's about an hour away, and Jakey, what, about 30 minutes or something?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, we had a nice little lunch. Nice little visit. We met at a seafood place and had a little get together. You guys rode your bikes. I could not because I had a prior obligation and some errands to run, so I was in the old cage, the truck. But how was the ride today? It's about 51 degrees fall here in this area, guys, if you aren't obviously familiar, because we're worldwide, of course, but around here in eastern Washington state, it takes a real nosedive about this time of year, from nice weather to straight into winter. All the leaves are coming off. And it's starting to get really cold. It's starting to freeze at nights, and about 50 degrees today. Not too bad, though. Sunny out. Yeah, so no big deal for us. I mean, we were riding below freezing, but nonetheless, how was it?
Not bad at all. It was very enjoyable.
Yeah, I've been riding all week to work on the bike, and it's been 29 to 35. So to get on it and it's 50 something, I was like, woo, I'm like in Florida right now.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being in the studio. We've got a great subject for you guys today. This is one BD came up with, and he's been very involved here, of course, in law-abiding biker media. You guys see him a lot moderating in the private patron-only Facebook group. And you know what? Since we're talking about patrons, this episode is brought to you by the following patrons, guys. If you want to become a patron, strongly encourage you to do so you can get in that private Facebook group if you pledge a certain amount per piece of content. No risk to you. That's right. There is a monthly cap. We keep it real. Why don't you thank these people, Jakey? At least one of them. Then BD Kane can go.
Well, first is
I threw that one at you, didn't I?
Yannick Lamontagne.
Have you seen him in the private Facebook group there, BD Kane? He's been really involved.
Yeah, he's been very involved. I'm very glad to see it too.
From Gatineau, Quebec. Did I say it right?
Gatineau, Quebec. I think that's how you do say it.
And he is a top-tier patron.
He gets free access to any of our exclusive or purchase videos upon request. Next, BD Kane.
Yeah, we've got Carrie Christensen of New Brunswick, Canada, and Philip Sanja, Tampa, Florida. I'm going to tell you, I'm stoked to see these Canadian guys coming on here. That is super cool. They have a totally different perspective of bike buying and stuff. So thanks for coming on, guys.
Yep, awesome, guys. And again, if you want to get involved and you want to make sure this show keeps going on down the road, put a little fuel in the law-abiding biker gas tank, as Lurch would say. Help us out. Again, no risk. You can pledge a certain amount per piece of content, and it is a way that we can move into the future. It's ramping up. We really want to take it out here at the end of the year. And that probably one of the best benefits is that private Facebook group. And like me and BD Kane have said in the past, it is like and Lurch too. It's a forum, guys. It's actually better than a forum.
Yeah, you know, it's very simple. There's a lot of bike forums out there, Ryan, and we've talked about this. And
not a fan. Not a fan of the forums, only because they're clunky. The user interfaces are clunky and they're messy and you can't find stuff. I don't like them.
Yeah, they're all run by Tap Talk, and it's all about selling the advertising, this and that. Even though they have administrators that are not part of the company, it is the thing
problem. I don't know who these people are that are giving me advice on my bike. People know us, and we know who's in this Facebook forum because they have to use their name. So we're like, okay, I understand. I trust this guy. These forums could be some guy sitting in his mom's basement in underwear telling you to do something to your Harley. I'm like, what do you know about Harleys, dude? You know?
Yeah, I mean,
not all of them.
Wonderful thing about this lab member only, I'm going to tell you, if you guys are listening, you're faithful listeners, you buy stuff from us on the site or whatever, we appreciate it. You give donations. It's fantastic. But I'm going to tell you, this private site, and it doesn't cost a lot to do it, it is a true forum. We have people asking questions about fixing their bike. We have people offering opinions of what they've done to fix bikes. Some of the stuff is new to us.
Oh, they teach us all the time. I love it.
It's been fantastic. It's probably the best thing that we've ever come up with.
It was, and it was kind of a fluke when we started Patreon, the campaign. I was like, we should have something, and that has grown. And if you guys didn't know, right in the private Facebook group, once you're in there, it does act like a forum, but it's better. It's got way better searchability. So literally, I went in there the other day because I needed to remember an article that a guy brought, and we'll talk about it in another episode, but it was a helmet saving a guy's life. And I just went into the forum and I typed helmet. It came up with every conversation that was ever talked about in our private Facebook group about helmets, and all the links are there and the conversations. I mean, it's that people don't realize that's kind of what Facebook has become, these private groups as forums. And of course, the only way you access it is to become a patron and pledge a certain amount. And if you go to lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon, Patreon, you can find out how to get in there and get your free stickers and t-shirts and all the other stuff. So, all right, enough about that. Thanks for chiming in there, BD Kane. And also, of course, Jakey's in there, and he realizes the benefits of being in that group, all that kind of stuff. Let's take a quick, our main topic, guys, let me just tell you as we're running down the schedule here, is going to be, BD Kane came up with this, came up with all the show notes, and I appreciate it. He's got some great ideas that he brings right here to Law Abiding Biker Media. And so he brought a V-Rod special. So we're going to talk all about V-Rods today. He has intimate knowledge and experience, not only in poem reading, but in dealing with V-Rods. So he did have one in the past, and a lot of people ask us about V-Rods, quite honestly. I'm here to be educated today, as is Jake.
As I am. Yeah.
We're going to ask a lot of questions, and that's why we set it up. I didn't do a lot of research because I've never actually owned a V-Rod. I know somewhat about them, but BD Kane's the expert in the house today, and we do have a quick voicemail, and I appreciate this individual leaving this voicemail. Let's take a listen and see what we have to say.
Hi, my name is Perry, and I had just heard your podcast you did in 2013 on lane splitting, and we'll give you my 2 cents worth. I'm from California. 8 years ago, I was almost killed in a motorcycle accident. I was actually splitting lanes with a motor cop, and then I realized I had plenty of time to get to work, so I pulled up behind a car and going about 5 miles an hour, and I got plowed into by a car going over 50 miles an hour in 81 Buick because the guy was text messaging. Broke my back in 4 places, gave me a head injury. Spent a week and a half in ICU, and yes, I still ride. I split lanes, but I do it safely. I go only 5 to 10 miles an hour, what everyone else is doing. Out here in California, basically the vehicle code states that vehicles must share the road with motorcycles. So it doesn't, or share the lane with motorcycles. It doesn't specify front or behind, so that's kind of like our little way of getting by with splitting lanes, because we're still sharing the lane, but we're just happen to be beside them. I feel a lot safer splitting lanes, for obvious reasons, as opposed to being stuck in traffic. Now, there are these idiots out here, mostly on rice rockets, that have split lanes that are freaking hauling ass, going 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour while the traffic's almost stopped. And, and they're mostly the fatalities and the accidents out here. You mentioned your podcast about people don't get fed up because they're used to it. Yeah, I don't get fed up unless, these guys are hauling ass. Now, I try to be very respectful, and I go slow and still split lanes. I still save time. And there's a proper way to do it. So, anyways, good podcast. Really enjoyed it, and I'm new to you guys. So, keep up the good work. By the way, I gave money every month to you guys, and you'll get my monies every month, and keep up the good work. Thank you much. Bye.
Awesome. And thank you, Perry Churchill, for taking the reins and actually just leaving a voicemail. We appreciate those so much. How did he do that? Do you know how he did that, Jakey? Do you know how he left a computer voicemail right from his computer?
He definitely did that by going on to the lawabidingbiker.com/voicemail.
Anywhere in the world, it's free. All computers come with built-in microphones now. You push the button and you record your up to a 2-minute message. And that's how easy it is, guys. And you see the quality compared to a phone. Although if you only have a phone, we have the podcast hotline number, 509-731-3548. And of course, we will not balk at a phone message either. So, Perry, thank you very much. And seriously, guys, leave us some voicemails. We love playing that stuff. We love the feedback. We're not going to make fun of you. As you guys have seen, we're going on 100 episodes here with our overall, and we don't break guys down. We're here to learn from you and take what you have to say seriously. So unless you read a poem and you pretend like you have an English accent, but other than that, we're not gonna make fun of you. But anyways, lane splitting. What do you have to say about that, guys? You hear a story, been in a wreck and everything. It brings up some interesting points, and I love the follow up. That was episode number 41. lawabidingbiker.com/41. You can get the show notes and listen to everything we had to say about lane splitting in that episode. Any comments, Jake?
I've been in California in the LA area.
I don't care.
Sorry, I had to just.
I was there for that one. You had to get it in there.
I did.
I was stung by a wasp.
You're dumb.
Yeah.
What were you doing when you hit them?
All right, go ahead. Those are going to be long-lasting sound bites from William Crum. Sorry.
You're dumb. You're just dumb.
Fucking dumb, dude. You're dumb.
All right, go ahead, Jake.
I'm just saying it does scare the heck out of me. I saw it when I was in LA on my bike, and I didn't actually try it over about 5 miles an hour, but there were crotch rockets flying through there. I can't believe more of them don't get killed.
And their motor, he was doing it with a Motors Cop. You hear what he said?
Yeah.
And he actually got in a collision. So motor cops do it down there. That, if you don't know what a motor cop is, guys, that's just a motorcycle police officer. They call them motors. And, here's a guy that's actually living it, breathing it, and has been in a wreck and still does it. But I agree. My first thoughts listening to the voicemail is, I agree. If it ever comes to this state, I'm going to have to regulate myself. If it's that unregulated, you're going to have to set up yourself personal, at what risk am I going to do it? Am I only going to do it when traffic is in a traffic jam and everybody's stopped? Or am I going to have a listed speed in my mind that I'll do it up to 15 miles an hour? Because you would want to do it going down the freeway at 60 miles an hour, especially if you were being held up. That's just the kind of person I am. So I know my personality, and I would literally, like him, have to set my own standards, some standard of safety, and go, Ryan, you will not do it if it's over 15 miles an hour. You just will take a hardline rule, because no doubt about it, it is dangerous. We saw from our motorcycle crash one, which was a recent episode. Jakey, you did that one with us where William Crum got pissed because they were passing him in a no passing zone, and the guy, dumbass, swerved over and hit him. That's where those sound bites come from. So we know the dangers of it. And you just have to be very, very aware of that. And again, go back and refer to episode 41, because we get into, air-cooled bikes, water-cooled bikes getting rear-ended because of traffic. There are, and we give our opinions on whether we agree with lane splitting. I do. I think it has some great benefits, but until it's widely accepted, I've said before, even in the William Crum episode, where he took out those bikers, I said the same thing. Until it's widely accepted, it's going to be, it's a huge risk for motorcyclists. What say you, BD Kane?
Well, we actually looked at it in this state.
I don't care.
Sorry, it's fun to do that
dude,
shit.
If you're going to do it, you got to do the dumb one. That's the best one, listening to the last episode with Jake. Jake, what do you think?
God, you're fucking dumb, dude. You're dumb.
That was the best. I text Jake after I got that. I said, "You got to be kidding me. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard."
It is funny.
No, we looked at it in this state, and the state patrol was actually against it as far as everything I read. But there was a push for us to look at it here in this state. And, I'm neutral on the matter. I've never done it. I've only ridden in California a few times. And, but I can see in those highly congested areas, the idea is to get the bikes out of there and moving so it frees up extra space for the cars. And, it's dangerous for us because in traffic jams, it's stop and go, and they're rear-ending motorcycles. And if we can get through and not have to stop, and then we have less likelihood of getting rear-ended, right? Yeah, and I know that our friend Matt Pass from Sacramento, I believe it is, he's even in one of the episodes talked a little bit about it, and he's shared his concerns about the rear end and accidents and stuff. So,
Good call. Thanks for the message, Perry Churchill. Thanks, bud. Really, guys, reach out to us. Don't be afraid. You're bikers, for God's sakes. What are you afraid of leaving a voicemail? All right, let's get into this V-Rod spec. So why don't you just open it up and tell us a little bit about it, and me and Jake will jump in when we have questions. Your V-Rod special here, buddy.
Yeah, well, this conversation came out of Ryan and I talking about modifying bikes and things that we've done to bikes that were maybe a little out of the unusual. And I've owned 1, 2, even 3 bikes at a time, depending on the situation. And I had a 2006 VRSCA V-Rod. And I will tell you, it was a very learning experience. It started out as a hot rod where I was going to have a lot of fun. And when I decided to start doing some modifications after hitting some pea gravel in a roundabout, I learned a lot about that bike, especially what could be modified, what could not, depending on the models, whether it was an A model or a B model, what that meant, etc. And so in the process, I ended up posting some pictures of a VRSCA that I did, the V-Rod, and modified it with some 16-inch ape hangers and put low profile rear suspension on it and stuff like that. And that's kind of how this started out.
All right. I like it. So we're going to get into the V-Rod, guys. And like I say, I don't know a ton about it. I've got some questions. Let's take it back. So this was, let's go back to 2006. Dream sequence. Straight up. Going all the way back to 2006 when BD Kane was just a young lad and probably wearing knickers and suspenders. And he got his first Harley Davidson motorcycle, V-Rod. All right.
Wasn't my first Harley.
Sorry.
I had already owned probably 10 of them by then. But
you're right. You're older than that. But I wanted to paint a picture of a guy
I still
in
had
knickers with a
underoos
V-Rod.
on, though.
You're right. Still underoos and knickers. I wanted to paint a picture of you with a V-Rod and knickers and over reading your poem of Me So Horny. All right. Why did you get a V-Rod? What was the draw, dude? I get it. I like them. You know, if I was made of money, someday when Lab breaks through and we're all over the, just frickin' breaking it down, I'll get a V-Rod. But until then, I can't afford one. But I see some of the draw. What was your draw on it? What were you trying to get at here, bro?
Well, for me, what ended up happening was I had always wanted a V-Rod. Not just to run back and forth to work, do some little stuff. And I was really into
why? Why did you want a V-Rod? Performance?
I wanted the performance. I liked the fact that the engine was innovative with the water cooling, the Revolution motor. I watched a special Harley Davidson and History Channel, I think it was, or A&E had put together regarding that, coming from the VR 1000 Superbike, how they developed that.
Just talk about that. People don't know what you're talking about, dude. The VR 1000 Superbike. Jake's sitting over there, and you got to jump in, Jake, on this. You got to jump in and ask questions because I saw he's like, a VR 1000 Superbike. What the hell is that?
Yeah, Harley Davidson decided to get into the road game. They decided to get into the road game, and they came out. This all goes back to the Eric Buell days, and with Buell bikes and producing for the race deals. So they had a VR 1000 Superbike program, and it was a dream of Willie G to
the guy with the skull.
Yeah.
So everybody, Willie G, you get Willie G grips, Willie G. I forget, I did some research on him once, Willie G.
Oh, they had a big exhibit when Law Dog and I went through Milwaukee this summer, and we saw John Stevens, one of the patrons. Hey, thanks for lunch, John.
Willie G. Davidson, born 1933, is an American businessman, a motorcycle designer, and former senior vice president and chief styling officer of Harley Davidson Motor Company. He was also the head of Harley Davidson Willie G. Davidson Product Development Center in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. While being generally responsible for approving Harley Davidson motorcycle design, he also personally designed several motorcycles for Harley Davidson, including the Super Glide and Lowrider, which pioneered the factory custom motorcycles and created an intermediate line of motorcycles between their large touring models and their smaller Sportsters. There you go.
Just a side note. Ryan is so intelligent that he actually recited that from memory.
Yep, that's right. I was ready for it, straight up. Me and Willie G.
When we went through the Milwaukee Museum, a little thing, they had a specialized exhibit on Willie G. He also designed the Fat Boy, and the original Fat Boy that he rode to Sturgis was there on exhibit. The gray one with the yellow lines around the heads of the blockheads.
Nice,
very cool. But he's always trying to push the image, whether it's his artwork, his painting, or whatever. And so he kind of had this thought, this dream. You guys all know, all you listeners know, Harley Davidson had to get what they act to pass EPA standards. Now they've got the water cooling now, but we're talking about a bike that basically really created the foundation for today's water cooled bikes with Harley Davidson, whether we want to admit it or not. But how do you take a cool bike that is air cooled and suddenly put a clunky radiator on the front that's going to look ugly? And how do you make that look nice? And if you ever watch that program, they talk about a lot about that and having to add fins to create the air turbulence, etc. But of course, with the race bikes, it doesn't matter. But they wanted to have the Harley look, etc. And when that bike first came out, I rode one down at our local dealer, and I was just enamored by it. I was like, it was beautiful lines. It was sleek. I love that drag bike look. There's two types of bikes that I like. I like cholo bikes and I like drag bikes.
So racial.
So on this,
Hey, I love the look of the cholo bikes with the ape hangers and the dropped asses.
If you don't know what a cholo bike is, yeah, that's exactly it. That's good. So it looks like a lowrider car. It's kind of off that, type of look with the slammed and white wall tires and ghettoed out with big apes and
red wheels.
Red wheels. That would be a cholo bike.
Yeah.
well, it always seemed to me like this bike was more Harley's, attempt to kind of get into like the crotch rocket market. And is from what you're saying, that's not what it was, and so I completely misinterpreted. But what was that like? You were saying they were trying to get into racing. Is that what it kind of was? Or
no, they already had a race program. The Buell bikes that came out were more of the crotch rockets, and then later on some of the later when they got rid of the Buell bikes, and then they would just went to the straight up XR 1000s and stuff that are Sportsters, which were being used at that. They're still being used even now as the race bikes. But the deal with the V-Rod was to create a bike where they could test some of the stuff that they needed to, especially regarding water cooling and stuff like that. But they also they wanted it to look like a long, lean drag bike. And little known thing, if you notice, I mean, when these bikes first came out, there wasn't a whole lot available for them, but one of our companies that's helped us out quite a bit, Vance and Hines, was very quick to get into the game with them with pipes and stuff. And so it kind of made sense. So they had the race bikes, et cetera, but came out in 2001. It was a single model. They just called it the V-Rod. It was what later became known as the A bike. And there was the A bike and the B bike. And then of course, later on, now we've got even different ones. And then there was the S, which didn't have the forward pegs, which only had the mid-rise pegs and stuff. But there's a lot that's how it's evolved.
Let me do this. I also memorized this, Jake. The VRSC was introduced in 2001 in a single model called the V-Rod. The V-Rod was developed to compete against Japanese and American muscle bikes. The V-Rod made use of the Revolution engine developed jointly with Porsche that, for the first time, used overhead cams and liquid cooling. Unlike other Harley production models, a 60-degree V-twin engine, the radiator, and the hydroformed frame members support the round-topped air cleaner cover. The fuel tank on the V-Rod is located underneath the seat.
Yes, and that is one of the things that I learned one of the cons later on.
Yeah, that's weird. I want to talk about that. Placing the rider on top of it rather than the useful frontal placement. The tank, in this case, is dressing, hiding the frame. Loosely based on the VR 1000 Superbike, which, of course, BD Kane alluded to, Harley-Davidson builds it as a platform for drag racing competition machines. All VRSC models are produced at Harley-Davidson Vehicle and Powertrain Operations Facility in Kansas City, Missouri. That's a very interesting deal because I didn't realize that even to this day that that fuel tank is just for looks.
Yep, it's nothing but a cover that covers the air box.
Did you know that, Jake?
I did not know
you
that.
You better
That's
say you didn't,
news.
because I'd say that's bullshit if you thought you
Where do
knew
you
that.
fill it up?
You fill it up underneath the seat.
Good point.
So you have to lift the seat up to fill it up?
The seat's on a little swivel. You put in the key, you lift up the seat, and you fill it up underneath there. That's one of the drawbacks, and I don't want to be a squirrel and lose my nut before we get to it, but that was one of the drawbacks I found with owning a V-Rod, especially for somebody that liked to ride a lot of distance, because there's not a big tank.
Good
How
point.
big is it?
3.2 right up here. It says
3.2 there are aftermarket companies that will do a 5, but you have to do a little bit of work with it. But 3.2 don't go very far when you're getting about 35 miles a gallon.
Not even right around 100 miles if you're lucky.
Yeah, and it's running at about 42 miles per gallon.
Do you know how? This might be premature to ask this question for this episode, but
You
know
always
how,
go premature, but go ahead. You're straight up.
He's used to being premature.
I walked into that one.
Yeah.
Yep, you did. Go ahead.
Do you know how popular this model was? Did they sell a lot? Did they sell a few? Have you heard?
Popularity. That's a good question. Good job, Jake.
Well, through my research, I
hardly see any.
You are either V-Rod or you're not. Most people who are going to spend $17,000 are going to go get themselves a Heritage Classic or a Fat Boy or a Fat Boy Slim or something like that. The guys that are looking for this, a lot of them that I spoke to in different forums or guys that I knew that had them, they got them specifically because they were different than the normal Harley. They wanted to have an American-made bike, but they wanted something that looked like they could go. There's a little bit of pride about pulling up on a stoplight and you know that you can whip a lot of the bikes out there, but yet you can still say you own a Harley. And that's just coming from people that I'd spoken to and talked to. And of course, now the model has evolved immensely from the A model to the B model, which was the Night Rod. And then it went into the S model, which is the sport model, which wasn't as popular. And now you still got the two models. You got the V-Rod Muscle, which is a very thick, wide, tired model. I absolutely love the looks of it. But they still make the Night Rods, which were all, if you look at them, they're still based on the old B model bikes. So.
Right. I got a Night Rod. It resides under the bed.
And it's thick and wide.
And I just, only once in a while, I get the Night Rod out.
It only works with Cialis in a bathtub.
Straight up, dude. The Night Rod has a different meaning in my household. I will tell you real quick that this is a bad-ass looking bike, V-Rod Muscle. I'm looking at a 2015 black edition here. We're looking on the monitor, all of us in the studio here.
It is a pretty bike.
Look at the simplistic design of it. Look at how underneath the seat there's the gas tank. Look at how you're able to see it. I love the minimalist art view of it.
Yeah, right. No, good call, BD Kane. The other thing is, I will say, I've always, from a personal, and we got a lot to go through here. This is good stuff. I will tell you that looking at this bike, and I'm surprised I never looked in before this episode any closer to the V-Rod. I'm very drawn to it aesthetically. I'm very drawn to it because I know it's fast as shit. I like the lines of it. I like the price of it. This one's retailing, of course, with no goodies, is $16,449 listed on the Harley Davidson site. If you guys want to get the show notes, lawabidingbiker.com/ and the episode number, whatever episode this number is, you can have all the links that we're looking at this stuff here. So if you're listening in podcast format, of course, you can hit the links and see what we're talking about. But so I'm drawn to it. I guess for me, the reason I've never really looked at it closer or researched is because I don't have the money to have two Harleys. Speaking of, I got to get rid of this night train we're sitting on right now.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys remember, lawabidingbiker.com/ night train, we're selling a night train. We only got it to do a few videos. It's a beautiful little bike. The videos are over there. But I guess that's why I've never looked at it, because I'm like, I can't tour on that. It's definitely not a touring bike. I know that it wouldn't be comfortable going to Sturgis and back. But if I was made of money and had a real job, I would definitely get one of these V-Rods, just because I know I could burn the tire on it and I could rip on it, and I would love to ride one. And I know my dealership would let me ride one because they let me ride whatever I want when I go down there. They let me film it. They let me ride it. I just haven't taken the opportunity to go down and check one of these badass bikes out. So I guess that would be my take on it. I think it's badass. I like it. Jake, what about you? Does it do anything for you? Does it make it move at all? Just move a little bit, or does it make it completely?
Looking at it, I mean, it's a beautiful bike. I'm kind of like you.
Proprietism again? Yes, no, half on the proprietism meter. Would it be half or full? Okay.
I guess my question, I've had 3 Harleys. My first one was a Sportster. I liked the bike. I did a lot of modifications to it. But the one thing was,
God, you're fucking dumb, dude. You're dumb.
Sorry. Why do I do that to Jake?
Who buys a fucking Sportster these days, mister?
I did learn a lesson with that, and I did tell myself I was fucking dumb. But anyway,
no, we love Sportsters. We do, by the way. I've had one too. I love them. In fact, I want a Scrambler so bad it makes me just.
We're gonna do a Scrambler episode, BD King, because you're very educated in that. Yes, remind me of that after we're done. We're going to put that on the list because you know a lot about scramblers. I'd love to go ahead, Jake. Sorry.
Well, it was fun.
I know that just throws your whole train of thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it was fun having the Sportster, and it was good for around the area. But then I started going on longer trips and with people, and I just
you never saw panties drop with the Sportster.
Not really, and I was so uncomfortable all the time.
But if it had a biker gripper,
Oh, yeah. That was pre-biker gripper. I might have kept it.
True.
Now, I guess my question would be for this one, and you've ridden one. I can't afford to have two, so I have to go with touring.
We don't have real jobs.
How long could you ride this? I mean, what kind of distance before it really became uncomfortable, in your opinion?
For me, once I got my bike done, which included putting a touring type seat, which wasn't a very thick one, trust me. They don't design anything to ruin the lines of this bike. And then a quick on and off windshield. It was not uncommon for me to do a 350 day. The problem was that the gas tank was just so small. Now on the new bikes, they've addressed that, but on the 06s, the original 01s through 06 A models, 3.2 gas tank. So,
but you say a 300-mile day, like one day, not like this year when you did 16 days or whatever, and you did 6,200 miles. It's not that kind of bike.
No, it could,
you may get away with one day.
Yeah, it can be. I know I've read of some guys that set these things up, but when I've seen how they set up their bikes, it ruins the looks of what I think the bike should be. I
can make a sports truck and put floorboards on it and a big, huge fairing and windshield and turn it into a touring, but I mean,
this bike to me reeks that you get on it and you ride back and forth to work. You ride,
drop
I'm not
some
saying
panties.
That these cannot be long distance. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they can.
Sure.
But to me, this would be my second bike. And that's what my V-Rod was for me. It was a second bike. And
okay.
Good, some good times. But like I said, man, I learned a lot.
And so looking at this thing, that tank is just for aesthetics. And that's funny, sitting here in this podcast. Well, I read that a couple of days ago because I did a little research, realized that, and that was my question, they're still that way to this day, as the gas tank is just for looks, right? It's still under the seat, BD?
We shouldn't even call it a gas tank. It's an airbox cover.
Gotcha. See, yeah, right. The overhead airbox cover.
What's it made out of?
Metal.
Mine was made out of aluminum. And when I had it repainted, which that was nice instead of plastic because it made it a little bit easier for the paint shop to work on.
What happened with plastic? You said it was plastic?
No, it was aluminum.
Oh,
my airbox on mine was aluminum.
But are there other ones?
Well, this one
You're
here
making it
is
sound like
aluminum.
yours was.
No. This one, they were all aluminum.
Okay.
But when you look at some of the Japanese bikes that have come out, you'll see that. But they do have there is plastic, the airframe there on this V-Rod muscle, you see where it's the inlet for the airbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's plastic that kind of bolts in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. Those are so up front of them, this is the actual where it's forced air.
Yeah.
Right. So if you guys look at the V-Rod up front of the tank on both sides, I assume it's got the air intake and that forces it back into this overhead air box. And then of course the intake right there for the V-twin motor, 60-degree V-twin motor takes it in from there.
Yeah. And that little tube that's going down where we're used to that being where the fuel injection or the carburetor is, that's actually the down tube for the liquid cooling.
Oh, so the radiator, these are liquid cooled tubes right here.
Yeah.
On the right side of the bike in between the V.
Yeah. And that's the thing with the bike is once I got it and I thought, I'm going to be able to modify this over the winter. It's going to be great. You find out there's just not a lot out there. So I think that's why Harley does a good job of making it a hot rod from the start. This is the perfect bike for the guy that wants a hot rod but doesn't want a traditional Harley. And he really doesn't have to do much to it other than maybe put some pipes on it, maybe put a K&N air filter or a Stage 1. And
does it come with Screaming Eagle parts already?
No.
Okay.
No. And you'll find that there are limited producers out there. There's some companies that I had to search for and find through some of the forums that really kind of guided me there. But for slip-on mufflers and K&N, of course, you can get the filter direct. But very, very sexy bike as far as the looks of it. It just looks like it looks fast standing still, and that's what drew me to it. I mean, I love the looks of those drag bikes.
Right. I like it. I don't like the square seat so much.
No, that's just on the muscles. My V-Rod and even the Night Rods are a little bit different. You're looking at the model. There's actually another Harley Davidson V-Rod model if you look it up and you'll find it. But
this is the Night Rod and the V-Rod Muscle-First 2016.
Yeah.
These are the only two.
What's the difference between a V-Rod and a Night Rod?
The Night Rod.
I told you what my Night Rod is already. Are you really asking again?
Wide and thick.
Yeah. The Night Rod Special keeps the original design from 2001 and on in its heritage. When you look at the Night Rod Special, you are literally feeling like it's the same V-Rod that came out that kind of broke the scene back in the day, versus the Muscle is a totally different looking bike. And
it's not that different looking to me. I mean, it is.
Look at the tank.
BD Kane, I know I agree with you, but
Dual tailpipe.
to the general public, a V-Rod's a V-Rod. I mean, look at that.
But it's not. Look at the little things, like the airbox there is very similar to the A and S and R models, or excuse me, the S models. Look at the inlet there. Instead of having the wide inlet, you just have the side cover. So, I mean, they are different.
Yeah, they are. But I think the general public,
dual exhaust instead of a single 2 into 1 pipe.
This is a true dual exhaust out the right side, 2 pipes on your Night Rod, and then on your V-Rod, you've got one out each side. One on each side of the bike. Did you notice that?
Yeah, the Muscle, they're just 2 different versions of the bike, and they're if you pay attention to them, they do look a little bit different. Back when in 06, they only had the 2 models. They had the A model and the B model, which the B model that's the tagline for it. That was the Night Rod.
Oh, okay.
And so the Night Rods had the handlebar setups where you could actually replace the handlebars, you could loosen them and adjust them, versus the A models from its inception until the A model was extinguished in 2006, the handlebars could not be adjusted. They were preset. So basically they were just like having a T-bar that mounted directly to the triple tree. And so they called that the clamshell. So you had the clamshell A model, which was non-adjustable.
That's another thing. Right next to the Night Rod, I got a clamshell under my bed. Just why do you got to take this whole episode pornographic, dude?
It's meeting the theme, but I got to know what the clamshell is.
Right.
The clamshell was the outer skirts that went around the bars that were non-adjustable, that were non-chrome. You could see the welds and everything, and covered them up. So what you had was the clamshell went up from the triple tree all the way up to the speedometer unit. Versus now, the bars are actually put in just like any other bike, where they're adjustable, etc. And the speedometer is part of the clamshell versus the speedometer is sitting on top with 2 screws that then goes down into the right. It's a riser. Consider it like a riser. The B models have a riser that goes from the triple tree, and then the top part of that riser is your speedometer, gas gauge, and RPM unit. Versus on the clamshell, everything was in the cover, and then it covered the dirtiness of the handlebars that were non-adjustable, that were preset. So there was no adjustability, and so that's one of the downfalls I found with my A model, and hence why I did weeks and weeks of back-breaking work and a lot of painstaking research to figure out how to convert mine to a B model, and then moved forward with the custom project I did.
Okay.
Question.
Yep.
So you said there's not as much aftermarket, as much aftermarket parts and stuff for the V-Rod. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, when you own a normal Harley, it doesn't matter whether you want a cover or for anything. They have it on the V-Rod. A lot of especially at that time when I did this bike about 3 years ago, you were lucky to get slip-on exhaust, maybe full exhaust, but you're not going to find like where you can go out for your street glide and you can buy a chrome set of housing covers, whether it be the clutch or the brakes.
Does that make, because it's so specific, does that make those aftermarket parts more expensive or pretty similar to anything else?
Well, I can tell you that the slip-on exhausts that I bought were like $700 just for a set of slip-on exhausts, and they were not that fancy. I mean, some of this stuff is. But, some guys, that's why I think Harley does a good job of marketing this as a factory hot rod. And I will tell you, stock, other than the noise coming out of those pipes,
which is none.
Yeah.
Right. EPA.
They are still smoking fast.
I'll tell you that the V-Rod, I remember when it came out, it was pretty controversial because a lot of Harley guys were not ready for that look. And I'll tell a lot of guys wrote it off. and I don't see a lot of them, and I don't know a lot of people that ride them, and so I don't know. They must be making enough to selling enough of those models to justify. And I in my own way, I like it. But what's the deal with that? You think? Big Daddy. I mean, you know what I mean?
I think you have a production point where they're selling enough to make it worth it and to offer something to people that would have been going to maybe the Suzuki M109 or any of those other, maybe the Yamaha Warrior or stuff like that. But I will tell you that there is a very well said, especially in the forum area.
It does look a lot like a Suzuki M109, huh?
Yeah. And I will tell you, there is a lot to be that.
God, that's ugly. Sorry if you're, I shouldn't say that. Sorry, I interrupted you. We're looking at a Suzuki M109. If you're riding a Suzuki M109, I'm okay with that. I'm not a fan. That first glance right here.
Yeah. What you're getting.
It's not as sleek a lines as the V-Rod.
No, but it's a lot bigger motor.
Well, I'm
it's
sure.
Pretty fast.
I bet it's fast as shit.
But I will tell you that with V-Rod owners, they're just like sporty owners think that other Harley guys don't respect them and they think negative of them because they're just on the sporty. And I will tell you here at Lab, we don't think that because a lot of us start out on that. But, guys that are diehard Sportster guys are like, I've heard them all say it, oh, well, I just got a sporty or, oh, he's just got a sport. Well, I will tell you the V-Rock guys, are very well vocal around that. They tell stories about showing up at the Harley dealer and being snubbed because, of what they're riding and stuff like that. And, hey, we're Harley too. And I never experienced that. I went to several things on mine, even though I had another bike. And I went several things and I never had any issues. But I will tell you, if you're used to going into a dealership and picking up a knickknack or something like that for your bike because you got an extra $20 from your paycheck. What am I saying? $20. You got an extra $100 from your paycheck.
Nice.
That is just not the case with V-Rods. Everything, the dealerships never had parts for them. They never had anything. You'd ask them any questions, the parts guys, about it, and they just look at you with this stare in their look. Now, people who have a V-Rod here listening to us, maybe if you're from a big city, it's different, but I can tell you every dealership I went to, they said, we really have no clue. We have that one V-Rod mechanic that's been trained. We're going to give your bike to them. Or we'll have him call you to answer your question as to whether this riser will work, or do you need to replace the rubber bushings with polyurethane because you're putting these. It's just, there wasn't a lot of that, but they are out there. Mm-hmm. They have their own clubs. A lot of them are very diehard. If that's what they started on, that's what they want to stick with. For me, it was a toy, and then it became a rebuild project after the Pete Gravel incident. And so I made it a full-on custom and lowered the suspension and the ape hangers, et cetera, which that in itself drew a lot of interest from people because they were like, wow, I've never seen that.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of that.
But that's what I was going for.
I do want to get into that too. Let's talk about the Revolution engine real quick. The Revolution engine is based on the VR1000 Superbike race program developed by Harley Davidson Powertrain Engineering Team. It is a liquid-cooled, dual overhead cam, internally counterbalanced 60-degree V-twin engine with a displacement of 69 cubic inches. That's 1130 cc, producing 115 horsepower. That's pretty good.
More power.
With a red line of 9,000. It was introduced for the new V-Rod line in 2001 for the 2002 model year, starting with a single VRS-CA V-twin Racing Street custom model, a 1250cc Screaming Eagle version of the Revolution engine was made available for 2005 and was present thereafter in a single production model from 2005 to 2007. In 2008, the 1250cc Revolution engine became standard for the entire line. Harley Davidson claims 123 horsepower at the crank for 2008 VRS-CAW model. And then there was a Destroyers equipped with, and we won't get into that, with a 1300. But what are they looking at now? Did you look these specs up, dude? For a 2016?
Yeah, let's just say they're fast.
Yeah, right. Well, I agree. 115 horses, that's a lot for, because ours are not nowhere near that.
Yeah, I will tell you, it's very weird that literally you're taking a bike up to 8,000, 9,000 RPM That was one of the first things
Right,
that I
true.
had to get used to because it sounds
That's more of a
like it's about ready to, you feel having rode a normal Harley, it's about ready to blow up, but it's not. But again, when you ride it the way you want to ride it, they don't get the very good gas mileage and they have very small tanks. So that was one of the cons to owning this bike is if you decide to run up to Yakima to go see friends. I mean, by the time you get to Yakima from Tri-Cities, about an hour away, you got to stop and fill up gas.
now they're 5-gallon. The 2016 is a 5-gallon tank, which that's what my 05 Wide Glide was.
That is a corner.
And if you think about it, we were talking, Jake asked the question about the history of it, and I thought it was, think about this. I mean, when Willie G came out with the very first Super Glide in the AMF days, that was something that was not normal. That bike was created to be a factory custom bike of what guys were doing. They were taking FXRs and stuff, and they were turning around putting T-bars or drag bars on them, and they were lowering the ass end on them with the suspension, whether it be dropping it from a 12 to an 11.5-inch travel rear suspension or whatever. If you really look at those first bikes and then you look at this bike, although this is a lot more drag looking, they have the same lines. I mean, you look at those original V-Rods, and other than having a smaller tank and a little bit of this, they follow all those same sleek lines of, I mean, I still remember seeing that very first AMF Super Glide when I was a kid with the factory drag bars, white with the stripes, and I thought, that's a drag bike, man. That is just sleek. And even now, they still come out with some of those factory customs. A few years ago, they came out the Screaming Eagle FXR model. So, I mean, this is just offering something to somebody different. But everyday Joe who's ridden Harleys, air-cooled motors, they won't even accept my Ultra Limited because it's water-cooled.
Right.
They don't know any difference, but, it's just times are changing. And Harley's trying to keep up with that and innovative. And this V-Rod was an integral part of their development of new motors, development of working with Porsche. Whether you want to believe it or not, hey, y'all, that twin cam you're riding that you love was developed with Porsche too.
No, I believe it. I believe it. Interesting thing is it's only a 5-speed. We're looking at a 2016 model. It's a 5-speed. But again, with that motor and setup, I'm sure it's fine. It's a 76 cubic inch displacement. 5-speed. What do you say about that?
Well, because of the RPMs,
Because you can
it's
run
not
it
a big
so hot,
issue.
right.
Yeah, it's, but like I said, mine was a gas hog, man. I mean, they say 42. That's with somebody that's the standard weight, 150 pounds, 5'5", 5'6", whatever the standard that they use for that. Guy that's 6'3", 250 pounds.
Yeah.
And you get on the throttle a little bit. Yeah, I never got over 35 on mine.
It's a pretty light bike too. It's only 673 pounds wet.
Yeah.
That's pretty light. You know, with that kind of motor. That's crazy.
Basically, I used to call it a motor with a little bit of aluminum around it. And
Right.
that was a rear fender, a front fender, and an airbox. The rest of it was all frame, was all motor.
Sweet. Let's move on. Why don't you thank these people real quick? Of course, we love our patrons. We love our patrons because we want to see in that private Facebook group. We never balk at a flat donation ever. And if that's the only way you guys can help us, then that's just fine. lawabidingbiker.com/donate. Go ahead, Jakey.
Well, we have Mitchell Chapman of Houston, Texas, David Duffy of Jackson, Tennessee, and Ronald Sheely of Winchester, Kentucky with a substantial donation.
Thank you so much, all of you,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you much.
for helping put a little fuel in the Law Abiding Biker gas tank. Again, lawabidingbiker.com/donate. That's right. Take action. That's right. You there. You walking your dog right now. That's right. You running. That's right. You in your car. Oh, pull over first. Then take action. I got you on that the other day. Jakey was out listening to one of our podcasts and he was out running and I called him out. I said, you running right now?
Holy cow.
And he's like, hey, that's me. That's right. You mowing your lawn right now. Stop your tractor. Stop the blade. Take action. Oh, you want to tell us a little bit? So you had your pea gravel. Why don't you tell us real briefly? You went down in some pea gravel. I don't know if there's much more to that. You went down like a sack of shit.
Yeah, I bought the bike from a police officer in a city nearby where I work. And it had it was,
That's what you said right after that. Just
I don't care.
I said I got stung by a wasp, y'all.
No.
And but it was purchased brand new in Indiana by another law enforcement guy who ended up moving out here and working, and then he sold it to another cop, and this guy needed some money. So I jumped on it, and it had a special edition paint. It was the Harley Davidson purple and orange. I didn't really care for the paint much, but I figured, well, I got enough friends that paint and stuff, I could do something with it. So I bought it and was riding it one day and hit a little roundabout with some pea gravel, and at about 20 miles per hour put me over and everything. And so I picked it up, started it up, and drove it home with the front wheel kind of wobbly and the handlebars kind of down. And
no handlebars, no handlebars.
sang that all the way home, didn't you?
oh, it was a mess. The guy that was with me that I work with, he's like, "You cannot ride this home." And I said, "Get the fuck out of my way. I'm riding this home. I ain't calling for a tow." And I rode that thing all the way home about 7 miles. Just absolutely dangerous. But of course, Danger is my middle name.
Right, that's right, yeah.
And so at that point in time is when I really learned about V-Rods, when I started doing all the research how to rebuild this thing. And I will tell you, one of the best things they ever did was splitting so that they could get the motor out. The frame, instead of being a solid frame, because there isn't room for it, they have what is called a lower frame. So they have the left and right side lower frame that attaches with two Allen head bolts. And so I had to replace that, and I had to replace some radiator shields, and I ended up repainting it, the whole deal. I figured if I'm going to do it, I'm going balls out. I'm going to build this cool custom bike that even if nobody else likes it but me, then I'll keep it. And
What year was this?
it was an 06.
06. All right.
06
Taking
with,
us back again.
4,000 miles.
All
so
right.
it was still
Wow.
just a brand new baby.
Yeah.
And so I got it, and the first thing I did was jack it up, and I had the front solid aluminum wheel, which I thought was a very cool styling cue that kind of made it look very sleek, but it also reminded me of the Fat Boys.
Right. Who had the solid front wheel. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I went on eBay and found a wheel online because I had to replace it because it was completely bent. And then I had to...
Dude, how did it get bent? Going down on pea gravel.
It hit the curb.
Right. Okay. So the curb.
It's aluminum wheel,
Right.
so it hits the curb and bent it. And so I started going onto a forum, and I'll give them a shout out. I mean, I know we don't normally give big shout outs and stuff, but 1130cc V-Rod forum, the guys.
All right. There's like 10 people in there. We're good.
I don't.
I'm teasing.
I don't. There could be 1,000.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you, every time that I ever had a question, I could ask it, and those guys had knowledgeable information. What they said turned out good.
Good.
Especially since I was so new to the bike.
Right.
I was able to buy parts on there. The guys had extra parts, so it worked out really good for me. But at that point, I found out about a Harley Davidson dealership back east that offered mail order stuff at a discounted rate, and they also offered their schematics online. So I was able to look at the bike, go to the schematic on the laptop, figure out what I needed to
Like
replace.
microfiche.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally ordered all the parts I need, and I rebuilt it, had it repainted. Luckily, the only thing that was damaged from the body really was just the radiator, the right radiator shroud. But that right lower frame tube had to be replaced. I had to replace the master cylinder, the rear brake pedal. I had to replace the mufflers, slip-on mufflers, because they were all scraped up. And then I had a friend that owns an auto body shop that repainted it in crimson for me. So I decided if I'm going to do it, I'm going to make
Hell
it my
yeah.
alma mater. And so I made it my crimson colors, just like my college. And at that point, I was really frustrated with the handlebars, and they're non-adjustable, the A models.
That's weird that they ever did that, but whatever.
Yeah,
don't get it.
picture it being a bike, like some of the new bikes that come out that just have the T-bars.
Right.
And they're non-adjustable. It's the same premise.
Yeah, I guess.
But
yeah.
instead of putting really cool chrome bars and then putting the speedometer on the tank or some way that the speedometer could be removed, they put that inside this clamshell, which hid all the ugliness of those bars.
Yeah, right. I'm tracking. Mm-hmm.
And so, but then I found out that I had to go to B model risers, and that's where I started searching for night rod riser and speedometer set. I was actually able to use my same speedometer. I just screwed it into the one, but I had to find a whole new riser system. I didn't know nothing about it. And so, I mean, I really learned how to build this bike from the ground up. Just doing little things like adding a fuel module. And none of the companies were really offering one except for this one company. And, well, there was two companies, but one was very expensive. The other one was more affordable. But instead of doing it traditional like we've done in the past where you're going directly into the OEM fuel module, this one was actually going into the fuel injectors themselves. So it allowed me to experience things that I had never had to experience before in modifying bikes, whether it be tying directly into the fuel, the fuel injectors themselves, or first time I'd ever had to replace a complete rear master cylinder system and stuff. I mean, just taking off a front wheel on a bike I'd never done before, replacing my own tire, putting it on there, just some really cool stuff. I ended up going with Outlaw 16-inch bars on it, chroming it all out. Ended up being a really cool looking bike, but one of those bikes that guys would walk by and be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. He did that. But it wouldn't be their taste. It wouldn't be their, they'd rather get on their Heritage Softail class and for their Street Glide or something.
No, I think it's unique, and I saw some pictures of it. I'll try to throw some of those in the show notes for you guys. It's pretty badass looking. It's not one that you'll see a lot. I bet you wished you had a lift to work on that thing instead of the garage floor. And if you would have came to Law Abiding Biker and you would have got a Titan lift.
I would have only bought a Titan because everything else is not the same.
That's right. We are a Titan dealer, guys. And if you guys want to get hooked up with a lift, you can go over to lawabidingbiker.com/store. Get a hold of us. We'll help you. We'll get it shipped to you. Titan, that's what we use for all our films and right in our garage. And he did all this. You don't have to have a lift to work on bikes, of course, but it makes it super nice. Again, any Titan product we can get for you guys, hit us up, lawabidingbiker.com/store. All right. So what else about fixing this thing up, man? We've talked about clamshells and rods and what else?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is if you've got an older model V-Rod and you're looking at doing adjustable bars and stuff, really I'm going to make it easy for you. You just need to go find like a B riser, search for B riser, anything
B as in boy riser?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially on those 06 and earlier models, which there's still a bunch out there. I see dealers all the time have 03 models for $5,500. And that's the other thing I want to impress upon people is some guy that hasn't had a bike, or maybe he has a entry-level bike and he wants to get into a Harley, but he doesn't like the traditional look. Don't be afraid of this V-Rod. It will get you into a Harley Davidson bike. And trust me, it's been copied because Victory's making one.
Right.
The very similar looking kind of bike. I look at the new Indian Scout and, the same lines and everything, and the new Street 750s. I mean, it fits a certain market, and we got to understand. See, we're in a rural area where we ride all over the place just to go places. But if I was from Seattle or a big city like that, and I'm just referencing Seattle because it's the big city around us, and you don't do a lot of touring, this would be a badass bike to own. I mean, you get on it, you put gas in it, you ride it back and forth, you ride it maybe a little bit out of town, do 200-300 miles. Perfect for that environment. And you mentioned that on the 750 and 500 street that you tested and rode and did the whole.
Yep. Yeah. The new 750 and 500 streets. Yeah, it's true. And even, the night train that we have right now, it's just so fun to ride. And I can really see that. Like I said, if I had money, if I had a real job, a real paying job, I would, I would get one. I mean, they're cool, but honestly, I don't know the last time I saw one riding around this town. I don't remember the last trip I was. They are very, very far and few between. But like you said, Harley must be making enough on them because, man, you just don't. There's not a huge market for those, which is why there's no parts, and why companies like your big aftermarket companies are not keying in on them because there's a very little demand for aftermarket parts.
It is a niche bike. I call it a niche bike. That the guy that wants a Harley, but he is not necessarily wanting what everybody else has. And, Harley's done a good job with this. Jake and I were talking about this, and I'll let him expand on it here in a moment. But even look what Harley has done with their Sportsters, with the new 48s with the fat tires, and then the 72s with the old 70s look with the skinny front and white walls. We were talking about that, and Jake, you can expand on it, but Harley Davidson has done a good job of marketing several products for different people.
Right.
And they make it just enough different of what you're into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were even talking about the ones today where you were talking about them earlier, but the ones with the almost for off-road. There's some off-road opportunities.
Yeah, scramblers.
Man.
So we're going to do an episode on that for sure.
Make me feel funny down deep inside
in the
somewhere.
nether region.
I know I did a lot of work. You're talking about other bikes, but yeah, like the Sportster, I did a lot of work on that, and the parts were easy to find. That's what scares me a little bit with the V-Rod, honestly, with hearing what you're saying, but it does look pretty cool, man. Is it bigger? When you were on it, you've been on a Sportster and a V-Rod. The one question I had, is it bigger, longer, more comfortable than a Sportster? Because my biggest complaint was I just always felt cramped on the Sportster, couldn't stretch out.
You know, Jake had a nickel for every time he asked his wife if it was bigger or longer. He'd be a rich man. He'd have a V-Rod along with this
and my Street Glide.
And his Street Glide.
Justice is the only guy I know that has one of those little pocket portable tape measures. He's always prepared.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like using rulers more.
You button hooked me. I didn't know you were going to button hook me.
Straight up.
This is what I'm going to tell you. If you look at the Sportster frame versus the FXD frame, there's only a matter of 2 to 3 inches size difference, but yet suddenly everybody thinks there's a big difference because it's a big twin motor. The V-Rod is the new ones, and I've rode them and I've sat on them. They seem very low and long.
Low and long, dude.
But I'm going to tell you this.
Straight up feel.
We all know that these Harley bikes, I'm going to tell you this,
Pimp
girl.
Daddy riding them, dude.
Listen up, girl. I got a V-Rod. It's set up.
It's low.
Lean.
It's long.
Low.
I can make the ass drop.
But unfortunately,
where did that come from?
It's from Ice Cube.
Okay, can make the ass drop. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry,
but
I get off track. I'm terrible.
I'm going to tell you this though: if you were tall and you're 6'3" like me, and even taller, when we talk to Lurch and Cuz,
right?
I'm going to tell you this bike, even with forward pegs, it is not necessarily that comfortable.
Correct.
So that's the thing. They are very long and lean and sexy. And if I win the lottery tonight, I'm going to buy a black one for every single one of us.
Yeah.
In the club. just to say we have one. But I'm going to tell you, it would be an around town bike. It'd be, LL had the Around the Way Girl song. This would be my around the way girl if I had this bike.
Hell yeah.
Just be around the way.
How long do you have it, bro?
I had it for a year and a half, and then I came across an opportunity where I could get another Road King, and I wanted to make a Cholo bike. And
okay.
So I sold it. And
again, you would have kept it had you had a real job, paying job.
You know, I was just glad that I had a job at that point. Right.
Yeah, no doubt, dude.
The way some of you guys know what we do, and the way that the society has been, I'm just glad every day that I got a job and can go and enjoy this career still. So
you were pretty in depth with this thing though while you were working on it, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much consumed you for a while.
It was, the grips and cables. I replaced the grips and cables. They were exactly the same way, other than the grips were the exact same way that
as our law-abiding biker videos.
Yeah, They were not throttle by wire, obviously, but some of the older ones.
We've got videos on cables.
But I had to learn how to do custom brake cables. I had to buy a universal kit and make it because nobody makes extended brake and stuff like that for a V-Rod. It's not as though you can go into one of our affiliates by going to www.lawabidingbiker.com / affiliates.
Banners.
Where you can just go and buy a kit. This does not happen. So I learned a lot about myself and this bike, especially at a time when it's in the winter time and you're kind of got the winter blues and you're wondering, I'm just sitting here all Saturday. What am I going to do? And so you get out there on the bike and you have I had never done a universal brake kit before where I'm building my own lines.
Right.
I did it. And
that's cool.
I had to do it with this because they're just not available. everybody told me I was crazy to put, Outlaw 16. I won't say the manufacturer, but anybody who knows the major manufacturers, an Outlaw 16-inch bar. And I was like, oh yeah, well, I can do it. And I did it.
That's sweet. So where's the bike now? You sold it? You haven't seen it around? Because I still see one of my old bikes around town.
Because I'm going to tell you, if I ever see it in the dealership, I'm going to go buy the thing back.
Nice.
And it's not even necessarily because I think it's the cat's meow. It's because I built that bike.
Right. And you put blood, sweat, and tears into it during a hard time, that kept you busy, buddy.
And even though I volunteer a lot for LAB, and you guys, that's why you guys sponsors and stuff like that are so important, because most of us are all volunteering our time. So the fact that you're giving the donations and stuff to where Ryan can continue this and we can have another way to put out our passion, we appreciate. I'm just going to throw that out real quick.
Bam, dude.
Seems like it's off the topic. And
no,
it's off the wall. But I got to tell you, because there's going to be projects like this that come up again someday. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be able to do it and afford an entertainment option to people just because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we love going off topic. It's not off topic. It's good stuff. Jakey, what do you have follow up on? Any questions? You mumbled a few times.
I guess the only thing I had, how does it corner? What's a performance like that way? You said it was fast. I hear that. How's it corner?
Right, like drag race fast, is it?
It went through corners really good until I hit peak gravel and at 30 miles per hour went into a curb and broke my wrist and everything else.
Oh,
but
damn.
Other than that, it did pretty good. I will tell you that, that's a true story right there. I will tell you, though, that I think my Rushmore bike now is far more stable and far more comfortable getting low in the corners.
So we're going to have to go test drive one of these 2016s.
Than my 06, but it was a cool bike for the time, and it definitely got some looks, and obviously it was good looking enough to where I went to a thing down at the dealership, and the bikini gals washing it said they'd do it for free, and they took pictures with the bike. So it's almost not as sexy, but almost as sexy.
Wow.
As the biker gripper.
Wow. I like it. What else, dude, before we wrap it up? This is your show.
Well, I would say that if you're ever in a situation where you're looking at a brand of bike and you are just not sure whether it's for you or maybe you're looking at a second bike, if you're part of our Patreon Facebook private group, you all know that you can go on there anytime and ask a question. And if we don't know the answer, we tell you we don't know the answer. But even on our public site, if you're not a member or something like that, and you're just looking at a bike, drop us a little deal. And if we've got some experience or we have an opinion about something, we'll tell you about it. I would love to hear what some people have to say about the new Muscle. I've ridden it, but somebody who's like really ridden it hardcore, because I know there are some guys out there that are using these as touring bikes. I saw several in Sturgis. And so, and by several, that could be 2 or 3. I don't remember exactly how many, but there were people riding them. So we would love if you're a member or following us on our Facebook or Twitter or whatever, respond back, tell us what you think and what you're doing. We want to hear your story, because my story was meant to be more along a bike that I thought was just going to be a fun little hot rod, and I ended up building and learning a lot about myself and learning new ways to become a mechanic. But for you guys, we want to hear about your riding story. Tell us about these different bikes, whether it be Harley Davidson, Victory, Indian, Suzuki, Goldwing, Honda, whatever. We want to hear your stories. And if you're a knowledgeable person, get a hold of us. We'd like to have you on and you tell us about those models.
Well said. And if you guys didn't know, Big Daddy moderates a lot of the emails now. So of course you can always get a hold of us via email, lawabidingbiker.com/contact. Please consider, if you ask us a technical question or for advice, there's a donation form when you submit the contact form. Let us know you care and you want to support us, because it takes time to research some of this stuff for you guys. So we're bombarded and we love it. All right. So anyways, guys, call to action today. Do not forget that you can support us. If you can't do it in any other way, you can simply bookmark our Amazon affiliate page. That's lawabidingbiker.com/Amazon. Once you go there, that's an affiliate link. It'll take you straight through. Just bookmark it, lawabidingbiker.com/Amazon. Call it Help Lab or Lab affiliate or whatever you want to call it. And then every time you shop on Amazon, doesn't matter what you buy, you can buy a night rod, you can buy a clamshell, you can buy whatever you want, pink panties, and we get, that's right, no additional cost to you.
You can buy a personal neck massager, what they used to call those
that's right.
magazines for the ladies.
Damn Skippy. That's right, guys, no additional cost to you. We do get a small kickback, helps put some fuel in the law-abiding biker gas tank so we can keep this heading on down the road. What's the hotline phone number, Jake?
509-731-3548.
Or leave an internet voicemail from anywhere in the world for free, right from your computer speakers, up to 2 minutes, lawabidingbiker.com/voicemail. And if you can't even do the Amazon thing, then you can, of course, we really appreciate you rating us in iTunes and Stitcher Radio at lawabidingbiker.com/iTunes or /Stitcher Radio. That'll take you directly there. It helps move us up in the rankings so more bikers can find us via search results in iTunes and Stitcher Radio so they can hear us from around the world and join what we like to call the biker revolution. All right, guys, we hope it was informational. We hope it was entertaining. We hope it was infotaining. Peace out, guys. Keep the rubber side down.
The shiny side up.
Thanks, Jakey. Thanks, Big Daddy.
Yeah. Nice.
As you all know, we're heard around the world in 140 plus countries. We get emails from all over the world. We love hearing from bikers. This is a special message from somebody abroad.
Hello, Ryan and Lab Crew. I just got to Triumph a few weeks ago and found your podcast. And I noticed that your recent love poems were absolutely fantastic. I actually have my own podcast here in the UK that's called Literacy Love. And I'd like to take a moment just to share with you a poem that I recently did. It goes like this. It's true you were a virgin until you met me. I was the first to make you hot and wetty. You tell your parents that we're going out, but never to the movies, just straight to my house. You said it yourself, you like the way I do it. So put your mouth on my private and suck my butthole too. 'Cause me so horny.
Dude, I can't hold it because it's so serious. Oh my God, I'm gonna wet myself, dude. Oh, Jesus, dude, we're never gonna get this done. You were on a roll too, dude. Is that it? Is that the whole thing?
That's the whole thing.
Oh my God, dude. All right, Matt can just edit that when we start laughing, dude. That's good. All right.
You want me to try one more time?
I think you should because he laughed in the last sentence and it needs to be serious for me the whole way.
Yeah,
I can do it. Just don't look at me.
I'm crying, dude. Tears coming out of my eyes. Oh my God. The music is perfect. What's the last part? Put your lips on my butthole.
Yeah, let me get it out.
How do you freaking... Oh my God. Whew. Dude, because I've never really listened to the lyrics of that song. Is that really the lyrics?
It says asshole.
Well, do that. Do what it says. You've already
No,
gone
it says
that
put
far.
the lips on my dick and suck my asshole too.
You need to say.
So I thought I'd keep it like proper and say on my privates.
You got to do it straight up,
say
dude.
what it says, dude. It's funnier.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know this was going to be so funny. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be funny, but
don't let me look, dude.
No.
I can do this one.
Straight face, dude.
It's true you were a virgin until you met me. I was the first to make you hot and wetty. You tell your parents that we're going out. Never to the movies, just straight to my house. You said it yourself. You like it like I do it. Put your lips on my dick and suck my asshole too. 'Cause me so horny.